Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Everybody Needs a Nudge. My newest guest is Mike Flaherty. Say hello, Mike.
Hello.
Oh, he didn't say hello, Mike. I was anticipating a hello, Mike.
I'm above that.
You're Fair enough. Most of my guests are not. I just want you to know that. So you're starting out. You're starting out ahead of the game. So
it's only the beginning, Nudge.
It's only the beginning. That's right. So Mike is not a listener of the show, Root Beer.
Oh no!
I know.
We got to change that.
He'll listen after this one, and so will all his people.
Yeah, there'll be a few others, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people dying to hear this podcast.
Not too many people know I'm doing it.
Oh, really?
It might be limited to just the Flaherty family right now.
Does the Flaherty family know?
They know.
Okay.
Yeah, the two people are going to ridicule me the most know Lisa and Aaron.
Lisa and Aaron.
Yep.
Mike doesn't care.
No, he's in school. He don't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
No, he's busy.
So my relationship with Mike is a hockey relationship, as most of my relationships are, but we played men's league against each other. We could talk about that for a little while. We played men's league with each other and then coached together at Rockland High, where he was the head coach and I was the assistant coach. And most recently, Mike is now the boys' head coach. We coached not together in the Breakers, but side by side, I would say.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
And now he's the head coach of the Duxbury boys, and I'm the head coach of the Duxbury girls. So it's like one big party down the block.
We just can't get away from each other.
No, we can't. I know. It's so cute, isn't it, Root Beer?
Yeah, cute. That's
Yeah,
we'll go with cute. We'll go with cute.
So before we get into Mike, we'll get into some of my segments. I didn't notice any corrections from last week's podcast, Root Beer. Did you have any?
I don't think so.
Amazing, clean show.
Oh.
But I was with my number one fan, who you know very well, Doris, my sister.
Oh, she is your biggest fan.
She is my number one fan of the podcast. She told me that my intro is too long and I need to cut it short to get into my guests. So we're not going to do that, though. So sorry, Doris. I don't care what you think, even though you are my number one fan. So when I'm back, because you don't listen to the show, I got to kind of give you the background. So I got.
You're making me feel really bad right now, by the way.
Good, that's the point.
Yeah, I know.
We got a Peloton in the other room. It's like a elliptical Peloton thing, and you can go on walks with people. So I've been going, like this video screen.
Yep.
You tour New York, you tour Boston. So I'm touring Boston right now. So we're gonna do some fun facts from Boston that you probably didn't know about.
Excellent.
So State Street in Boston. That's like the main financial street. That used to be called King Street. Yeah, and when the American Revolution happened, they got rid of all the references to kings and queens because it used to be King Street, Queen Street, and they changed it into State Street.
Ooh.
And they did that in all the cities that were in existence.
That is interesting to say the least.
Right? It's a pretty neat fact.
That is actually pretty neat.
So I took, and this kind of dovetail. So the one that I did, I went on a walk of like Charlestown and Paul Revere's house and all that stuff. But I took Hank into the Bruins game on Saturday night for 3 of his buddies. It was his birthday, and we went to the North End for dinner, and we ended up in front of Paul Revere's house. So it was like tying it together. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was nice. So they went and had a fancy.
They didn't ask who Paul Revere was, did
they? They knew who he was. They were like, yeah, that's the guy in the poem, right?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy.
Did you know there was another guy with him? William Dawes. Did you know that?
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, they didn't teach you that at Yukon?
No.
No history class?
If they did, political science made a lot of history stuff, but yeah, no.
They did that.
I probably skipped that day.
And here's what I thought was even
It's a good chance.
what I thought was even more interesting about Paul Revere. He didn't say the British are coming. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
No, he said the regulars are coming because the concern was everybody was British at that time. Everybody had come over. So if he said the British was coming, they would have been confused, right? So he said the regulars, meaning the regular army, the regular British army was coming. But the guy who wrote the poem later on, who I think who's that? Who wrote that poem? Wadsworth? He changed it to the British are coming. The look on your face is like, how do you think I know who wrote that poem? The famous one.
I don't know if you looked over here. I had the same look.
Yeah. Nobody knows.
Not a clue.
You got to make it work.
Yeah. So British are coming. But he didn't say that. He said the regulars are coming. So a little fun.
How long was this walk you took?
So it's like a 30-minute walk. It's amazing.
Seems like it's been like couple hundred years, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just picking up all. This is what I thought was like the most interesting thing. So, well before the Civil War in 1775, there was a guy by the name of Daniel Malcolm, and Daniel Malcolm had a store. He had like all kinds of goods in there, and he wasn't getting taxed on it. This is like 1969, and not 1769. And the British came and were like, "Hey, we're going to tax you, or we're going to take all your stuff." And he fought them off with like guns and knives, and wouldn't let them in their house. Kept them off, fought them off. So he became famous. When the war started, the British set up their camp in a cemetery on Cop Hill in not named for cops, but after some guy last name Cop, on Cop Cemetery, and they used Daniel Malcolm's tombstone as shooting practice. Because they were so mad at him because he was like a hero for fighting him back. They used his tombstone as musket, shoot muskets at. And to this day, you can go up there and there's big musket balls in his. Is
it really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yes, there's big, huge musket holes, not holes, like indentations in his headstone.
No kidding.
Yeah, a little piece of history there, right?
A little piece of history.
Yeah, and his brother, Daniel's brother, whose name escapes me, he stayed with the British, so they were like, that was like the first kind of civil war. Interesting stuff, right? Right here in our hometown of Boston.
It is pretty amazing if you start looking into that stuff. Like if you drive out in the Lexington, Concord area, you find all this stuff. You're like, you never knew it existed.
And it's pretty cool.
It is actually pretty
The
cool.
houses are cool out there. All like the stone walls that you see that these guys built when they were out there. Couple other things, and then we'll get into Mike. I am going to shorten it up because of my sister. She took me to a comedy show on Friday. It was not good.
It wasn't good.
No. I felt
no.
bad for the comedians. They were struggling up there, but they were not good. But we got to talk. We got to touch on real estate because we are a real estate office here. So I heard something on the radio today or yesterday that a year ago today, the average rent was $1,200 and the average mortgage was $1,200. Okay, so a lot of people that they were trying to decide whether they should rent or they should own for $1,200. You
might as well own.
Might as well own.
Right.
Now the average rent. That wasn't a year ago. That was in 2012. Now the average rent is $1,300. The average mortgage is $1,900.
Wow.
So that's a good indicator of sort of where the market's going, in my opinion.
The average is $1,300.
Yeah, that's probably national, right?
Has to be.
Yeah.
I would think
That's
so.
definitely not Boston.
No, you can't get you get a
Massachusetts.
shoebox for $1,300.
Walpole is like $1,800 for a 1-bedroom.
Really?
Yeah.
Walpole.
Walpole.
Is that where you were living before you? Now you
Yeah.
live in Sin.
Yeah.
She lives in Sin with her boyfriend in Berkeley. Do you know what Berkeley is?
That's a pretty good ride from here.
Yeah.
Berkeley's like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Relatively.
in the fall.
Gorgeous in the fall. Gorgeous in the fall.
But she's in love.
That's like Fall River down that way.
Yeah,
Dighton.
yeah.
Dighton.
Yep.
Rehoboth.
Yep.
Look at me. I
Yeah.
know a little geography down that way.
Well, yeah, that's from all you don't you have rinks down there?
We do. We got Fall River, New Bedford.
Yeah, so there you go. So Mike manages a whole bunch of hockey rinks for FMC, which we'll get into, and they got rinks down that way.
We have rinks down that way.
So you got to go down there sometimes.
I do.
Yeah. And you wish
Fun ride.
Really?
No, not really.
24, right?
It's awful. Depending on the time of day you hit it.
Tough ride.
Depend on the day. Depend on the time, rather.
24 is a nightmare.
Yep. I love it when it goes down from 3 lanes to 2.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
it's just we're gonna shorten it up and just make it another hour.
They don't have any room.
Nope.
That's
It's right around where I am.
really
Yeah, cuts down to 2 and then
Right around 140.
Berkeley.
Route 140, that area
Yeah.
in Taunton.
Yep.
Taunton Galleria. Is that like
That's
your
gone.
I was gonna say, I thought
Silver
it was
City.
gone. Yeah.
Silver City Galleria, gone.
Really?
Yeah.
How long has that been gone?
Torn down. A couple years now at least.
What are they doing?
I don't know. There were talks about a casino, but I think they shut that down.
No casino.
No
No.
casino.
That'd be a tough place for a casino.
Mm.
So the last thing that I'll mention, and then we'll get into Mike. Have you guys seen this skydiving called squirrel suit skydiving?
Yes.
Is that the one where they're webbed and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Yes, it's a real thing. I
Yeah,
watched it.
That makes no sense.
So I watched a show last night called what the heck was it called? Uncharted Adventures or something like that. Okay, and this guy went to Spain or wherever he went, and he jumped out of a plane in a suit that made him look like a flying squirrel. You know, like the flying squirrels.
Yep.
Yeah, from 16,500 feet.
What possesses somebody to think
Well,
about
you
doing
have
that?
2 people that just jumped out of a plane recently in your life.
I do, and I'm still trying to figure that one out, but they're a lot tougher than I am, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
No shoot?
Oh, no, they went with shoots. Oh, yeah, no. My wife and daughter did it. They went with shoots.
Your wife
If
and
it was
daughter.
me, it'd be no shoot.
Yeah.
They would, yeah.
They would have
No,
pushed
I
you
would've-
up.
I would have been the guy without one, so it's all good.
Yeah, sorry.
Or the
We
squirrel suit
only
with no
have
webbing.
3 suits,
Right.
so you're not going to get one.
Right. How do you feel about free falling with nothing?
Yeah.
No, that's how it would probably go.
So this guy jumped out of a plane. So I guess I've parachuted before. I have jumped out of a plane. I did it my senior year in high school, senior in college, down in Key West. Okay.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah. Just let that. I want to float
slide
that one out
we'll
there.
slide that.
Okay, we were staying at the southernmost hotel in Key West because it's the southernmost hotel in America. And we're sitting by the pool, and my buddy's like, "Hey, you want to go skydiving?" 30 minutes later, I was in a plane skydiving. There was no training, none. We just went up,
And
jumped 10,000 feet.
what could go wrong with that, by the way?
Correct. Right, 22 years old.
Yeah.
Key West.
You'll bounce back up.
Spring break. But this guy, so I guess when you skydive, there's like 30 seconds where you free fall, and then they pull the chute. But with this squirrel suit on, you like glide for 4 or 5 minutes, almost like you're flying.
That's pretty cool.
It's crazy.
I'll bet it's actually pretty cool, but I'm not doing it.
No,
No.
I have a lingering fear of heights from jumping out of that plane.
I have been deathly afraid of heights since I was a kid.
Did something happen?
Nope. Just I don't like anything underneath me. If there's nothing underneath me, I don't feel so good.
You're not comfortable.
Not at all.
Ladders?
Hate them.
Really?
Hate them.
Bridges?
Bridges, I'm okay because I'm in a car for the most part.
Yeah.
But I try to stay in the middle lane as much as I can. Every once in a while, you go over and take a look. I'm afraid of them because the guys, when you're the far right lane,
Yeah.
take a peek over.
Yeah. End up.
And follow your view.
I always noticed how big the curb is as you're coming over the Cape.
Massive.
The curbing is like this
It's like 3 feet.
to prevent you from doing what you just
Yeah.
described.
I'd find a way.
I've hit it.
You have.
Yeah.
You're a terrible driver.
I know. It was a beautiful sunset, and I was.
See, you took the look. See, it happens. I'd be that guy. I'd take the look.
On what bridge?
It happens.
I think it was the Bourne Bridge,
Bounced right off the curb.
right off the curb.
Pop a tire?
No, but my rims were jacked up. Jacked up.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
See, it can happen.
Did you stop or did you just keep going and
I kept going.
got home and then looked at
I
the?
was like, maybe it's not so bad. It was bad.
I feel like
was it as bad as you thought?
Worse.
Oh.
I feel like that's how every time I bump into something in my car, because I have bumped into things, I'm always like, nah, it won't be that bad.
I had that happen last week.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
My daughter decided to drive over a dead the animal was already dead, so she's like, you know what? I wanted to drive over a dead animal just to see what it was like. I'm like, what would possess you to do that? She's like, I don't know. So the molding underneath, it cracked.
Yeah.
And there was a piece that was kind of flapping around. So I took it back to the dealership, and they, instead of replacing the whole piece, like, no reason to do that. Let's just zip tie it.
Okay.
So they zip tied it really tight. Driving along the other morning, going up to West Roxbury, and all of a sudden I hear this thud. I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah.
I thought something hit me. And I come out of the car, and I park the car. I look, I go, the whole molding, gone. Snapped right off. All because Erin wanted to see what it was like to hit the dead animal. She was like, it was already dead. I couldn't really go around it, so I just drove over it. It was like a squirrel or something.
Yeah. I hit I hit something that was already dead today. It made
It makes a noise.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you lose a piece of a car, and you're like, well, here we go.
And here we go.
Here we go.
Well, that's when you have daughters and sons that are
But
driving.
unlike me, I actually got it fixed in the same day.
Wow.
Yeah, weird, right?
How'd that happen?
Made a phone call.
Oh, no, I called my guy.
I didn't call a guy. But it's a Mazda, so I called the people at the Mazda dealership. I'm like, hey, this fell off. And, Kim over there, she's like, done. She goes, I already get the piece, bring it in, we'll have it done today.
Wow.
I'm like, really? I'm like, well, if I don't do this
What
now,
Mazda dealership? I feel like they
Quirk,
should.
right in Quincy.
Wow. Quirk Mazda.
Excellent.
Excellent service. Customer service. This week's sponsor is Quirk Mazda.
I've been incredibly impressed over there. They take great care of me.
Wow.
Yep.
Do you know somebody or just?
I might.
Oh. See, you're not just walking in there blind.
No, but I was when we bought the car. My cousin's girlfriend works over there. He's like, you should look at a Mazda. I'm like, I've never really thought about a Mazda. And he's like, they're never in the shop. And if you go over there in the shop, there's like maybe 2 cars in the shop every time.
Really?
And they run forever. So it's like,
And they got good customer service.
I'm gonna knock on wood that
I know.
you know what I mean. So, but I would definitely buy another one. That's for
Wow.
sure.
Well, it's a glowing recommendation
Yes.
for a Mazda
Yes.
right there. Well, that's all I got for my little intro. I hope that was short enough for my sister Doris.
Not a chance.
No. Although Annabelle's starting her high school hockey season today. Your daughter already started hers last week.
Yep.
So that's a whole nother.
Yep. And now she's home for a week.
Oh, so she's got the whole week off for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, she goes back next Monday.
The more you pay, the less you go.
It's amazing.
The more you pay, the less they
It
go.
is so true.
A week off for That's like another break. It's a full week.
I love the one in March where they get like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like,
And by the time they go back, the school year's over because they're done in May.
Especially when she's a senior now. You think she's, we know where that's going.
She's done.
Oh, she's already checked out.
And she's committed to college, right?
She is.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
To her, not to you.
Not to me, but it's a family thing.
As
you know, it's a family thing.
It is a family thing. It is a family. So let's get into family. Let's talk about Mike Flaherty. So, Mike, where did it all begin?
South Boston, believe it or not.
Really? You were born in Southie?
Well, born in Dorchester, the old St. Margaret's Hospital.
Yeah.
And lived a little bit in Neponset and Dorchester for a bit, and then in South Boston until I was about 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like 7 or 8. We moved down to Rockland.
Are you the oldest?
I am the oldest.
What do you got? I've met your brother. I've met your sister.
There's me, and there's my 2 sisters, my sister Kelly, my sister Carrie, and then my brother Joe, in that order.
So that's the same order as me.
Yeah.
My family.
Wow. See, it's the stars
That's
are aligned.
amazing.
It's amazing.
So you're the oldest.
I'm the oldest, yeah.
2 girls.
Yep.
And then your younger brother.
Yep. And the girls are 13 months apart.
Oh, so we're a little bit. We're the same breakdown. My older brother Robbie, Doris, Heather, me, but we're all like 3 years apart.
Yeah. Joe is Joe's 7 years behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was 68. He's 75. So that's quick math is 7, right?
Yeah. Good job.
That's not bad.
Rockland education,
Not
right
bad.
there.
Not bad.
Why the move out of the city?
Well, we were living down the street from the Gavin Junior High School, and we were in my grandmother's house. We lived downstairs. My grandma was upstairs on West 7th Street, and Dad came home one day, heard some gunshots up the street. He's like, "We're out."
How about that for a nudge?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest nudge you could ever get.
That's a nudge right there.
But it was back in the time of the busing crisis in Southie and the city and all that stuff too. So
Yeah. So you were born in what, 68?
I was born 68. Yeah.
So you're talking 70s, mid 70s.
Yeah, this was 75, 76.
So Joe was just born then.
Joe was literally just born. I think we moved down he was born October 75. We moved down here like May of 76.
I had no idea he was born in Southie. See, this is what I like about this show. I've known you for probably 15 years, 18 years.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, and I always thought you were born and raised. You
No.
were born and raised in Rockland, but I thought it was
for
like
the most part, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it was like from
The
birth.
formative years.
Yeah. So obviously we know you played hockey, and we'll get into that. Were there any other sports being played?
Baseball. I was a baseball player.
Really?
Yeah, not a very good one, but I played.
Yeah, that seems to be it seems to be a lot of hockey and baseball. Hockey and baseball. You don't see a lot of hockey and football. You notice that, the people that come in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but now it seems to me it's like the kids grow up now. It's more hockey and lacrosse. Like baseball's kind of dying out. Like I know when I grew up, it was either you played hockey, baseball, you played football and soccer. Not football and soccer, but
Football and basketball.
Football and basketball.
Yeah.
But so it was baseball.
Yeah, I would say that there was like in the 80s into the 90s, there was a huge shift from baseball to lacrosse.
Absolutely.
As the spring sport.
Yep.
But I didn't, in Hanover, when I was growing up, there was no town lacrosse. Was there town lacrosse in Rockland?
No, we didn't have it until Michael was in probably 5th grade, 6th grade maybe.
Okay. So Michael's your oldest, born what, 2002?
2000.
2000.
It's 2000, yeah.
So Rockland didn't have it until 05.
Somewhere around, I would say it was...
No, later
No, it
than
was
that.
probably there. It was probably like 2012-ish, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So Hanover never had it, and then they got it probably around the same time.
I think they all... Hanover was probably a little bit ahead of Rockland, in honesty.
Yeah.
Rockland was one of the last ones to kind of jump on.
Yeah. It's expensive sport.
Compared to hockey, no.
No, nothing's expensive compared to hockey.
Right. But I mean, yeah, it's, sticks are expensive. The helmet is what, $200 alone.
Yeah. Then you got to play club and travel and all the other nonsense.
Thankfully, we didn't do the club stuff.
Yeah, you didn't.
No. Michael played just town, and Aaron just played town too. And then Michael played 4 years of high school, and that was it.
That was the end of
And
it.
he gave up baseball for it.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
So my Hank gave up lacrosse for baseball. He's sticking with the
He went the
baseball.
other way.
Yeah, and I want him to give up baseball for golf.
Of course you do.
Yeah, well, it's just a life sport,
Right. Well, he can always play golf.
I know, but you got to have like a baseline of.
You got to be careful, though, because if he comes better than you, you're going to have an issue with it.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, I can see that definitely happening.
And if it does, I'll be old. I'll be like, I'll always have that excuse. I'm old. I don't know what to tell you.
You'll have an erase from the pencil anyway, so it doesn't
Yeah, I
matter.
was like, when I was your age, I was way better than you. Oh,
Right.
You little whippersnapper.
We all say that. And then we realize, you know what? They're actually better than we are.
Yeah.
I hate that.
So you moved in the 8th grade, at 8 years old to Rockland. Why Rockland?
You know what? That's a really good question. We had some relatives in Whitman that my father would come down and he liked where they were living. And there was a great apartment facility in Rockland called Rockland Place. And there was a lot of families in similar situations. And they had moved down from the city down to that area. It was a tremendous place to grow up. It was all young families with young kids. It was probably, it was a pretty big complex.
Yeah.
But, the kids had pretty much the run of the mill and do whatever you want. Street lights were on all the time. You could go out and play tag football, street hockey, baseball, you name it. There was a pool in the place. I wouldn't recommend going in there very often, but
Right.
but
people did.
But it was a tremendous place to grow up. And I think they just thought that was a really good place to bring us down.
Really?
And,
So that's what you moved into Rockland Place.
Yeah. Which is now it's like Springgate or something like that. It's a little different clientele than now, but it was a really cool place to grow up. And people say it all the time, like, you grew up in them, like you have no idea. When we were there, we were a ton of kids.
Yeah.
And it was like one big giant playground. And it was
That
fantastic.
sounds awesome.
Oh, it was really cool. It was really, looking back, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't think if we had moved into a house, things would have been great there too, but I don't think we would have been as well-rounded as kids as we became.
Yeah.
Because there was just so many of us. There had to have been probably 40 kids my age, maybe more. And in the game, and say give a range of like 2 to 5 years.
Right.
And maybe even more than that, actually. And it was such a great place to grow up.
Yeah, and back then there were no phones, there was no video games, right? You were outside figuring out
9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, you were figuring out rules. You were making up your own
Absolutely.
games. You were dealing with your own conflicts, right?
Couldn't hit the left field.
Why
Right
couldn't
field. When you played baseball, if you had 3-on-3,
Right.
if you hit it to right field, it's an out.
Yeah, if you hit to the opposite field, you're out.
If you're the lefty, you're screwed.
Well, they should just so.
Well, we weren't that bright.
This is where because I'm a lefty.
I know where you're going.
I'm a lefty, and that was always my issue. They would have to,
swing it around the other way.
the left fielder would have to move all the way over to the right field.
I think I might have been the only lefty, by the way.
Really?
They're like, yeah, we're not moving.
Hit it to the opposite.
I had to
field.
learn to hit the other way.
Which probably served you well in your
Not
baseball.
really. I couldn't hit anyway, so it didn't matter.
I couldn't hit either.
No.
Couldn't get the ball.
I
out of the
could
infield.
punt like you wouldn't believe.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it's like talking to myself. It's like a mirror over there.
That's why we get along so well, Nudge.
So, do you play as you're coming up through the hockey ranks? When does it become sort of your focal sport?
I think it always kind of was.
Yeah.
I liked baseball. I really enjoyed baseball. Growing up, watching the Red Sox and all that stuff. But to me, there was nothing better than hockey.
Yeah.
We were fortunate enough that when we moved down here, my dad started working at Rockland Rink.
Okay.
As a second job. And before he got the job, I was just starting to dabble into hockey. I did a little bit in South Boston.
How did you get into hockey? Was your dad a hockey guy?
No, my dad never played. My dad had zero knowledge of the game.
Really?
Zero. I mean, he knew the Bruins, he knew the game, but he never played, never knew anything really about it.
Right.
I was just probably a product of the Bobby Orr generation, in all honesty.
Right.
My grandmother was a huge Bruins fan.
Yeah.
And she'd be upstairs kicking the floor whenever the Bruins scored. I'd be like, what in the God's name is that? As a kid, my father's like, your grandma's watching the Bruins again. Can we go watch? Yeah, so we go upstairs and watch my grandmother.
So was your grandmother? That was
my grandmother
the
was a
nudge?
huge Bruins fan.
There's the nudge that got you into hockey.
So it was that, and then, like I said, I think the whole Bobby Orr generation.
Yeah.
Where it was, they were the thing.
Yeah.
And, I got into it, and we moved down here. And it's just kind of, my dad started working at the rink. So now, you know how the rink world is. If your parent works in the rink, you're getting a little extra ice time. You're getting some free ice time, whatever it is, open hour, something like that.
You're popping down there. You probably have to jump there. You want, whatever you want to do, drive the Zamboni, have a blast.
I end up working there myself, doing the clock and stuff like that. My mother worked in the snack bar. So, I mean.
So what years are these that
this is
everybody's
like
there?
77, 78 in that range.
Okay. So you're like 10, 11 years old.
I was probably 9, 10, somewhere in that range.
And were you playing, what team? Was it South Shore Eagles?
No, it was Rockland Youth Hockey.
Really? They had their own program?
Yep. We had Rockland Youth Hockey up until I was a sophomore in high school. And then Rockland Abington merged, became the South Shore Eagles.
Yeah, okay.
But, we were not very good. But, we had some kids that would go play for Abington.
Yeah.
Because, Rockland wasn't good enough. Rockland could go play for Abington. But it was, we had fun. We had a lot of fun. We'd go on ski trips. One of our coaches would take us on ski trips. It was a good group of kids. We weren't necessarily really good hockey players, but we were all pretty good kids.
Yeah.
And we all got along really well.
Do you talk to any of those guys now?
I mean, my cousin was one of the kids, the Tommy Sheen that I played with all growing up, and his brother Todd. I still see Brian Geary around. I still see Tommy Mack. So there's some guys that
The Tommy Mack that I know?
Yeah.
Him
and Brian Geary were Abington. They played for Abington.
Okay.
But when we got to high school, that's when everything kind of started coming together with everybody. But
Got it.
We knew each other growing up and all that kind of stuff too.
I didn't know.
We were on the same school.
I didn't know it goes back that far.
Oh yeah, it goes. Oh yeah.
So from there, you end up at Rockland High.
Yep.
And you play 4 years of hockey there.
I did.
How'd that go?
Couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was funny when I came as a freshman the year before. I think the team was like 3-17 or something like that, and there was some good hockey players. My freshman year was the first year we ever had a season that was 500 or better.
Wow.
In the history of the school, and I think the program started in like 71.
Okay.
So we were just starting to come on our own, and then my sophomore year we were a little bit better. My junior year we were lights out. We were 16-4, 17-3 or something like that. And we were probably picked to go to the state finals, but unfortunately along the way, Abington creeped up and got us.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
It was a tough
Abington
one.
and Rockland just played in a Super Bowl last year, too.
Yeah, they did.
Who won that?
Rockland won it, and then they actually just played in the the quarterfinals 2 weeks ago.
Who won that?
Rockland won that.
Oh.
And then they just lost to St. Mary's the other night in the semifinals.
That's like a bloodbath, right? Rockland and Abington.
But you know what? It's such a great rivalry.
Yeah.
Like top to bottom, like any sport, basketball, baseball, hockey, you name it, football. It's always been a great rivalry. And that goes back to, the first thing I remember about Rockland, and specifically Rockland hockey, was Rockland Abington games.
Yeah.
The place would be banged out. It'd be crazy. It was good hockey. It was a rivalry I wanted to be a part of, in all honesty, looking back. And you're like, this is something I'd really like to do. And coming through the school ranks, I had the option to. My father's like, "We'll send you wherever you want to go. If you want to go to Thayer, we'll make it work. You want to go to Milton, we'll make it work." I actually in 7th, 8th grade, I skated with the varsity
at Rockland.
Yeah, as a stick boy.
Yeah.
The coach wanted he would see Frank Allegra, who to this day I swear is the guy who got me to college hockey. Not even a question.
So that was going to be one of my questions. Like whether you're coming up through youth hockey and into high school hockey, who was the coach that kind of guided you the most?
Without a question, Frank Allegra.
From Rockland High.
Yep. So Frank was a Hingham detective and old school, really, really old school. Like
how old school? Like
we're talking, exactly.
Bucket in the middle of the ice, skate until you puke. Old school. Or?
Yeah, but he also he was a good X's and O's guy too.
Yeah.
We always dreaded Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays and Thursdays we had bag skate days.
Yeah.
And we had an hour and 20 minutes.
So for those that don't know, bag skate is like essentially sprints constantly and wearing you down for conditioning.
And Mondays and Thursdays, those were the conditioning days.
Yeah.
Right. And you dreaded Mondays and Thursdays because Frank it was very few pucks. It was nonstop sprints. It was, for those of you that watch Miracle, the Herbies, we would get those. We were doing Herbies all the time.
Yeah.
And his big thought process was, if we're conditioned, we'll be able to pull away from teams in the third period. And I guess it worked. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know now.
Well, we know that those are counterproductive.
Right. So in his eyes, they were productive. But he was old school. Like he pushed you, and he pushed you hard. But he only pushed you if he knew he was going to get something out of you. And it's funny. I was thinking about some of the things you might ask me, and then one of the who's the guy that gave you a nudge?
Yeah.
And I kept thinking about Frank.
Yeah.
And Frank's still alive to this day. Still living in Hingham. I talk to him every once in a while, but I remember coming home. I was probably a sophomore, and I was pissed off. Like I was just in a bad mood and grumpy and miserable. And my father comes in. He's like, "What is your problem?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "You know what, Dad? Nothing I do is right with this guy." I go, "He's constantly on me. He's screaming at me every practice. Like, I can't do it anymore." I'm like, "I'm done." He's like, "What do you mean you're done?" I go, "I'm done." He goes, "What, do you want to quit?" I said, "Yeah, I might." He goes, "Well, Mike, let's think about this." And again, my dad never played. My dad was a swimmer and a diver.
Yeah.
So individual sports, he didn't really know much about a lot of things, but he knew a lot more than I. Let me rephrase that.
He didn't really know a lot about anything.
I didn't think.
Of course not.
He didn't think it, but he knew a hell of a lot more than I. And looking back,
yeah, that's the
right. And I like to think I take some of the cues from him, but he looked at me. He goes, "So you're a sophomore." He goes, "You play power play. You play penalty kill. You play a ton of minutes. You're playing over juniors and seniors, and you want to quit. I'm like, Dad, I can't make this guy happy. He goes, well, Mike, he goes, you can do one of two things here. He goes, you can look at it and say, maybe he does know what he's talking about, or, maybe he's trying to get something more out of you. Maybe he knows there's more in you. And I went, oh, man, he did it again. I'm like, son of a, I'm like, so he's like, you know what, you think about it. He goes, but if you want to quit, he goes, go right ahead. I'm never going to make you do something you don't want to do. He goes, but I think you'd be making a huge, huge mistake. I went to practice Thursday.
Of course you did.
Right?
You were never going to quit.
No, it was never even, and it was never one of those things, but I was just so, like, I'm done. I can't do this, because he didn't do it to anybody else.
Yeah.
But then thinking back, he didn't do it to the guys he couldn't get more out of.
Right.
And
he didn't want to lose those guys.
No. And you know what? He was also one of those guys, like, that same year, it was right before the end of the season, and we were going to miss the tournament, because back then you had to win 60% of your games.
Yeah.
And we were going to miss it by like 2 points. We were like
one win essentially.
Yeah, basically. It was like 1 or 2 wins. And this would have been the first time we ever made it in school history. And he grabbed me and he's like, hey, come upstairs, I want to talk to you. I'm like, oh man, what did I do now?
Right.
I'm like, the season's almost over. I'm like, I think I'm playing pretty well.
I can't wait for the baseball season to start with this guy.
I'm like, so he gets in the room, he goes, listen, he goes, you've had a hell of a year. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, what have you done with Mr. Allegra? Like, where is he? Right. And he's like, I want to, you got about 3 games left here. We're not going to make it. He goes, I want to see you play the best 3 games of the year. He goes, because I want to put you up for the All-Star team this year. And I was like,
Sophomore year.
And I was like, and now I'm going to take a step back further. It's the hockey world isn't like it was now.
Yeah.
We had kids in the South Shore League coming out and playing Division I college hockey. We had kids that were stepping out of, Rockland High School, Cohasset High School, Hanover High School, going to play college hockey, whether it was D1 or D3. And that was ultimately the goal for me. That's where I wanted to be. And he knew that, and he's just like, I need you to, these 3 games, I really need you to step up and just kind of, and we had gone through some crap during the year.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of great leadership that year. There was a lot of crap going on in the locker room, and I think he was looking at me to be one of the guys to maybe try to rectify it a little bit, and just go out and play my game and do my thing. And the last 3 games, I ripped it up. I'm like, so this guy's beating me up. Now he's hugging me. I'm like, where am I going here?
Right.
Like,
right.
What are we doing?
It's a great coach.
Yes, he is.
Knew exactly how to push your buttons.
He was. And, he's the guy. I say this to anybody that's ever asked me. He's the reason I played college hockey. It's not even a question.
So why is that? Why is he the reason?
He got it out of me.
Yeah.
He got more and more out of me. And then my junior year, we really took off. We were league champs for the first time in school history. We made the state tournament. And, we were a really, really good hockey team. And at that point, to me, I knew that this was something that, I can probably get it to the next level. So, where, I don't know, but that's kind of where it was there.
So you end up at Yukon, and so how does that appear on the map for Mike Flaherty?
Completely and utterly by chance, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I was looking at North Adams State. North Adams State was for some reason I had North Adams State in my mind. That's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I don't know why. No reason. They had a pretty good hockey tradition there. It wasn't great, but it was a good tradition.
Yeah.
So I was looking there. I was looking at Westfield State, and there was some sniffs from Northeastern. And obviously, as every kid, you have that D1 dream. Yep. Right.
And the Beanpot dream, which we talked about.
Absolutely. Right. So as a local kid, you're like, Allegra calls me again. He says, "Hey," he goes, "I'm calling Northeastern for you." I'm like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Mr. Allegra, I think that's probably a stretch." He's like, "I'm making the phone call." Okay. And they came and watched me. They came to Rockland Rink and watched me play against Hanover. And I hate to say it, but that's never happening now. No.
Right?
No.
Northeastern coaches are not coming to watch Rockland play Hanover.
Unless you're a kid like Mikey Monroe who just left last year and did his thing there. You got to be that special kid.
That's like a pre-scout of a pre-scout, right? Because he's a freshman.
Right. And they've seen him play club. Now they're just watching him play against older kids. They want to see what he can do, right?
Right.
So they come, and I probably have the worst first period of a game you could ever possibly have. Right? So this goes back to Frank being old school. We get in the locker room, I think it was after the first period, and he rips me, like up one side of me, down the other. You suck. You can't do this. You're awful. He goes, and I got Northeast in the building watching, and I just went, oh, man, right? I'm like, great. And one of the things he was always on me on was to shoot the puck. He's like, shoot the puck more. I'm like, I can't break a pane of glass with a shot. He's like, shoot the puck more. He goes, you have a good shot. I don't have a good shot.
Yeah.
So somehow, and I remember this pretty clearly, because I was so pissed off. I'm like, they're here. I got to do something. I grab a puck and I make a move. I step over the blue line and I rip one bar down, right? And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm like, whoa.
maybe this guy's right again.
Maybe I should shoot the puck more, right?
Yeah.
So then I started shooting the puck a little more. But Northeastern had seen enough in the first period. And, they offered me a walk. He can come walk on. And I'm like, okay, so I got the potential to maybe walk on there,
Right.
which would be a stretch. And North Adams came to watch me. Westfield came to watch me. And so one of my good friends on the team, the kid I was captain with, Eddie McVeigh, he had reached out to Yukon. And Uconn came to one of our games. And
So that he reached out on his own behalf.
he reached out on his own. I mean, back then, I had sent letters to every school there was. You handwrite your letters and send them. I must have wrote 60 handwritten letters to every school in the country. I mean, I even wrote to like North Dakota, Colorado College. Like, really?
So you were writing letters.
You were writing letters.
Putting them in, mailing them.
Licking the stamps, the whole bit. And you would spend 2-3 days writing letters.
Yeah.
You couldn't copy them because it had to be handwritten, because if you copy them, well, you're lazy. They're going to look at you like you're lazy.
Right.
My kid sent me.
Right. And now they just send an email from their phone and off it goes, right?
Right. And my luck, I would send a copy. Coach, I would love to play at such and such a school, but the wrong school.
Right.
Right. Because
Yeah.
I do that now with copy and paste anyway.
I do it. I do it too.
Do it all the time.
Yeah. Leave a name in there.
Right. So it was all handwritten letters. And, I had sent one to Yukon. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know Yukon existed. Had no clue. I didn't even know they had a hockey program.
Yeah.
So they came to watch Ed, and they grabbed me out of the locker room to say, hey, we'd love to have you guys down and visit.
Both of you.
Yeah. So I'm like, Ed, what the hell's Yukon?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it's the University of Connecticut. I go, oh. I go, some kids in our school thought I was going to the Yukon territory. Like, that's like nobody, I swear to God.
YUKON,
Yes,
Yukon
exactly.
territory.
Exactly. I had somebody say, you're going to Canada to go to school? I'm like, no, Connecticut. It's like an hour away. Right? So we go down. This is classic. We go down to see a game, and we pull into the parking lot of the rink, right? And I look at the rink, and I looked at Ed. I go, is that the parking garage? He goes like, no, that's the rink. It's an outdoor rink.
Oh, come on.
Outdoor rink. Huge roof, no walls. And the first thing out of my mouth, that is, not a snowball's chance in hell am I going here. I am not playing college hockey outdoors. I go, not happening. He's like, well, we got to go watch the game. I'm like, sat there,
Froze your ass off. Yeah.
Froze the whole game, right? I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, there's not a chance. There's not a chance. So they call back, and the assistant coach is like, hey, we think you could really step in and play as a freshman. Like, I'm like, well, all right. So now,
are you going to have walls on your rink by next year?
See, well, here's the other thing. We were always promised.
Can you put some walls up?
Every class for like 6 years was promised. By the time you graduate, there'll be walls in this rink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never happened. But that's neither here nor there. So
were they there when you left?
No, God, no. So they set up a recruiting trip, come down, spend the weekend. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go, whatever. Let's see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So Ed and I go down, and we end up staying with this kid, Paul Dole from Abington, who I knew from the Rockland Abington days. So everything kind of ties together, right?
Yeah.
So Paul Dole's our host, and they have to win that night to qualify for the playoffs. So we go to the game. I think they're playing AIC. They end up winning. And the place is packed.
Packed. How many people did it fit? Do you know?
I mean, it was outdoors. You could probably get comfortably, you could probably get like 500 people in the place.
Oh, good. That's a nice crowd.
Yeah, and there was probably about 400 or 500 people there that night, at least in my mind.
Right. There was 7,000 people there in your mind.
I think we played at the Garden that night. It was packed, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm taking this all in. I'm like, and back, remember the old the old light beer chant?
Yeah.
Tastes great, less filling. All that. It was like 87. And they start chanting that back and forth. And I'm like, all right, this is getting a little interesting now. And they end up winning. Place goes crazy. We go back to Paul's dorm. He's like, all right, come on, we're going down to Carriage House. We're going to a party. Now, Carriage House down at Yukon was like the place. Yeah. It was a street of probably about a half a mile long of all apartment houses. And MTV used to go down there for spring break.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was crazy. It was absurd.
I didn't know, but not fraternities.
No.
Just the Poplarville.
A lot of football players lived down there. A lot of athletes lived down there, and it was the place. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this place. We're driving like to the middle of the woods in Connecticut. And we end up in this whole place. We end up in this apartment complex. It turns out it's one of the captains. This guy Chuck Giancaterino, and the place is mayhem. Like, it's just chaos, right? And Chuck is the captain of the team, and we're sitting around, obviously having a few pops, whatever, and things are getting a little crazy.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Chuck dives down the stairs, like out of nowhere, just dives down the stairs, like head dives into like a little, like one of those kiddie pools at the bottom, right? He's in shorts, he's like got a snorkel on the whole bit, and I looked at it, I go, "Yep, I'm coming here." I go, "I'm pretty sure this is the place." And he's like, really? I go, Ed, look around. I go, why? It's like 15,000 people, and I think they're all in this apartment right now. Like, why would we not go here?
I go here now.
Like, seriously, it was like, I'm like, done, sold, right?
Yeah.
So the party ends. We can't find our host. So Ed and I have to walk back to the dorm. It's like a mile to the. We have no idea
where you're going.
No clue, right? So what we should have done is come down the end of Carriage House Street and take a right.
You take a left.
Where I went?
Yeah.
I went left.
Of course you did.
Right? So we go left, and we're walking into the middle of nowhere. I'm like, Ed, I don't see a dorm. I don't see a campus. I go, I don't even know where the hell we are. So brilliant idea. Let's turn around and walk the other way, which was the right way.
Yeah.
We go past the Carriage House Street, and we're like, oh, man. And we keep walking. Finally, we get picked up by somebody picked us up. I don't even know who it was.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? We just got in the car, got back to Dole's.
You would have gotten anybody's car.
You know
Jeffrey Dahmer could have pulled up, and you're like, yep, I'm sure.
Yep.
I'll get in.
Yep. And I probably get out and say, hey, thanks, buddy. Hey, thanks, buddy. You're a good
Want
guy.
to take a picture? Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for the lift. Oh, I can't get out now?
Well, hey, why won't the door open? Nah, no reason. So we get back to Paul's dorm. He's like, what happened to you guys? Like, Paul, what happened to us? Like, where the hell did you go? He's like, how'd you get back? I go, I don't know. I go, some random guy drove us back. So he's like, what'd you think? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming here.
So that was it. That was the
That
decision.
was it. So now, this is pre-cell phone days, obviously. Driving home, we stop at one of the rest stops in the Mass Pike, and I call home just to check in. And
That's nice of you.
Well, yeah, my parents probably thought I was dead in the side of the road somewhere,
That's
right?
my whole point. Is you were
Right?
probably gone for 3 days.
Right,
You
seriously.
called on your way home.
Right, exactly.
I'm on my way.
Well, it was funny. I think we actually had Saturday night off from playing with us. Maybe the season was over. I can't remember which. So we went down Saturday and spent Saturday night and Sunday. So it's like, I don't know, like 2 o'clock Sunday driving home, and I am like gray.
Right.
I'm not in a good place, right? And I wasn't a big party kid in high school, but this one, this one got me.
Got away from you.
So
we do not condone that on this show.
Not at all. No.
Every once
no.
in a while it
No.
happens, and if it happens, just make sure you don't get yourself in trouble.
Right. So, back then I have the calling card. I have the 9X calling card, not AT&T 9X.
9X,
right?
yeah.
So I call home. My father's like, "Oh, nice to hear from you." I'm like, he's like, "What is wrong with you?" I go, "I'm going to Yukon." He's like, "What?" I go, "I'm just telling you, I'm fine. I'm alive.
And I'm on my way home.
On my way home, and Yukon is the place. We'll talk when you get home."
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk, Dad. So we get home, and I told him everything. He's like,
But your decision was made at that point.
"Oh, it was not even a question. It was not." I mean,
and does Ed go too?
So Ed ends up going too. So Ed and I got on together as freshmen. We weren't roommates. They split us up. Same dorm, but we were down the hallway from each other. And
Thank God Ed made that phone call to Yukon.
You know what? Honestly,
What an incredible nudge that
it
is.
never would have happened. See, this is.
See what I'm doing there?
I know what you're doing.
You see what I did
get
there?
it. I see it.
You picking up on the theme?
I'm picking up what you're putting.
Okay.
So, Ed stays a year and a half. Unfortunately, I make the team as a freshman. Ed doesn't.
Oh.
A little awkward.
Yeah, that's tough. Hey, Ed.
But Ed stuck it out. We had a JV team, and Ed stuck it out for another year. And the next year, he transferred halfway through the year back to Curry.
Yeah.
And great guy, tremendous kid. He was such a good guy. I coached his son for a while. He was my assistant coach a little bit with the Breakers, but unfortunately, he went to Curry and he ended up playing 3 years at Curry. So it worked out
That's
for
a
him that
nice
way.
little career.
Yeah, but that's how I ended up down there.
So after Yukon, at some point, you get into coaching, right? And obviously, that's been a big part of your life for how long now?
It's got to be 20. I want to say around 98, so probably 24 years.
So you graduate high school, college, and when?
Do we really have to go there?
Yeah, you already told us how old you are. You're 68.
Yeah,
I mean, I
doesn't
can
matter,
guess
but
it.
I mean,
68, 70, 91?
I graduated in 92. I was on the
92.
extended program.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the
There's a lot of
extended
people on that. You know what they
Yes.
call those people? Doctors.
Dummies. Does that make
You've
me-
never heard
hey,
that joke? A
hold on.
lot of people go to college for 7
I've
years.
heard it.
They're called doctors.
I've heard it, but that definitely does not apply here.
No, it's
No. No, not at all. So, yeah.
but
so
you've been to the doctors. You have
numerous times.
Yeah.
Probably too many times recently, but that's okay. Yeah. Where are we going with this?
I don't know.
You just started with the coaching thing.
I know, coach. So you graduate in 92,
Right.
and you get into coaching in 98.
Correct. So,
With the Breakers, with who?
Assabet Valley, of all places.
Really?
Yeah, interesting story behind that, too.
The enemy.
I'll tell you later.
I don't. No, that's what the stories. That's what we're here for.
You didn't pick up on that, did you?
I did.
There you go. So I was working in South Boston. See how it circles back?
Yeah.
I was working in South Boston. And,
Living in there too, or living in still
No.
living in
Lisa and I were.
Oh, so you'd already met Lisa.
Oh yeah.
So where did you meet Lisa?
Oh, she's gonna kill me. I met her at Yukon.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, she didn't go there. Her brother did. So after
But think about, just hold on a second. Think about Ed McFay.
I know, right?
Makes the phone call, gets you to Yukon, and you meet your wife down there.
Right.
That's an amazing nudge.
So you're amazing.
I am.
You're really
You're
good.
amazing.
You're
You're amazing.
So
Little inside joke right there.
I'm sure there is. Killing me. So where the hell were we now?
You're
Lisa.
about to meet
Thank
Lisa.
you. For the love of God, I can't forget that one. Jeez.
This is always my favorite part.
Right.
I know.
So
She loves it. Kill it. She's a
it's actually a really cool story.
sucker for a love story.
It's actually a great story. So I had finished playing and I had tried to go to I went to a training camp. I went to the United League, which is now the Colonial League, and I went to the Muskegon Fury. This is my second kick at the can. Bruce Boudreau was our coach in Muskegon, the coach of Vancouver right now.
Okay.
Phenomenal guy. Great guy. So
He must have been young.
he was young. He was just starting coaching. This was his first coaching gig, I think.
Okay.
And, yeah, he released me, and he thought I was going to blow up his office and all that stuff. I'm like, hey, appreciate it. He's like, no, I just cut you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm going home, Bruce.
Yeah.
So he's like, what are you going home for? I said, I'm going to go home and get a job and get a, probably find somebody, whatever. He's like, okay, great. So I go home, and I had spent, now this is my 6th September in Storage, Connecticut, right?
I liked it so much I stayed for 6 years.
The last September, I wasn't even in school. I was just there, right? I was just trying to find myself.
Oh,
And,
yeah, that old story.
So I come home for a weekend, and I got to go back because I forget exactly why. All right, so I got to go back. I come home, I got to go back. I think I was cleaning out my stuff, whatever. And my sister went to Yukon after me. So my sister and Lisa's brother Pat were classmates
Yep, at Yukon.
at Yukon. So I'm heading back, and so Pat's like, "Oh, my sister will give us a ride." So we had to go. She gave us a ride to another kid's house in Medfield, and he drove us back to school, whatever. And I get in the car. I'm like, "Hendo, I didn't know you had a sister." He's like, "Easy, easy." I go. I had no idea. I go. He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Listen, I don't know." I said, "I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. I have no idea." So actually, this is before I went to camp. I'm sorry, this is before I went to camp, and that's why I was going back to. I had to come home and get stuff, and I was leaving to go to Michigan. And I get cut, and I come home, and then I'm home sitting on the couch doing nothing. And Jeff Ray, who you know,
Yeah.
good friend of ours, the assistant coach, was my roommate at school, and one of my best friends. He's still down at school because I think he's on the Flats plan too,
Yeah.
right? So he says, what are you doing Thursday night? I'm like,
Hold on.
I got no job. I'm living in a like a cove in my parents' house, like with no heat. I got nothing. He's like, well, we're gonna go to the Bruins game. Why don't you meet us come to the Bruins game? I'm like, great, perfect. Go to the Bruins game. He's like, you got nothing going on, right? I'm like, nothing. He goes, why don't you just come back to school for the weekend? It was like Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, why not?
That sounds like a great idea.
Listen, I got no clothes.
Right.
I got nothing.
This
is all I got. Right?
Such a guy thing. No,
Right.
don't toothbrush. Nah.
No, didn't even have that.
Don't need it.
Didn't even have that. So and it's Thursday night. So we get down Friday night and
Do your thing.
do my thing Friday night. Now, so Saturday night was like the hockey team. Now Jeff was done playing. The hockey team had like their last practice. So Lisa went down. My wife. She went down to visit her brother and was hanging out with my sister, and they were having a huge party afterwards because it was you can say it back then. It was the initiation party.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, it was hazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Can't do that now.
No, it was shaved the kids' heads, mohawks, and all that stuff, which you could do back then, and it was nothing crazy. It was just freshmen got mohawks.
Yeah. That's not bad.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. And so we get to this party, and Lisa's there, and all of a sudden she is, we make eye contact. I'm like, hey, what's going on?
Doing your thing.
Doing my thing. Yeah. I got my game going, right? There's no game. There was no game whatsoever.
Hi.
Yeah, pretty much. Hi,
I remember you.
I'm Mike. Do you remember you drove me back?
I've been in your car.
Right. Exactly. Right.
All creepy.
Oh yeah. So now, mind you, Lisa may have had a few beverages. I probably had a few beverages.
Of age.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be right if we weren't.
That's correct.
Right. So all of a sudden, she has like the liquid courage. Like, I know you want to kiss me. Why don't you just kiss me?
Ooh, Lisa.
Swear to God, right? And I'm like, you're Hendo's sister. Like, Hendo will kick my ass.
Right.
She's like, just kiss me. I know you want. And this went on for about a good 20 minutes, and I fought it because I'm like, it's Hendo's sister.
Right.
Right. Well, long story short, I kissed her, and here we are 30 plus years later.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a pretty cool story. She loves it. She's like, she's not embarrassed by it. She's like,
She shouldn't be.
you know what? I think
That's her personality.
I think
though.
at one point it was like she was like, I know what I want. And I went and got it.
Yeah. And that's her personality.
That is her.
That's how she is.
And that's how it all went down.
Yeah.
That's how it all went down.
All in Yukon.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like everything, it's funny, but it's like you say that it all circles back to it. And you think back, like, what if I didn't go there?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here right now.
Nope. Completely different life.
I'd probably be loaded and living on an island somewhere, but that's a whole different story. But
Oh.
No.
So you get into coaching in '98 with Assabet.
Yep.
But eventually you make your way down to the South Shore to do some coaching.
Yeah.
And how do you end up at Rockland High?
Well, so Assabet, I was my buddy guy I worked with for Ryder Truck Rental. He took over like a Mite major team.
Yeah.
And he just said to me, he goes, you want to help me out? I'm like,
Now, so these are like 9-year-olds.
yeah, they were 9-year-olds. So he's like, I'm looking for an assistant coach. Now he doesn't have a kid in the team, neither do I.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that sounds. I'd like to do something like that, sure. So Lisa and I were just married. It was like 98 weeks, right around then, and we got married in 97. So it was like a year into our marriage, and I said, hey, Eric asked me to go help him out. She's like, where? I go, Aspen. She goes, you're gonna drive to Concord? I go, well, I work in Southie. I go, so it's just a ride home. Man. There's no traffic on the ride home at that time. Well, the traffic from Southie to Concord at 5 o'clock.
It's brutal.
Oh, it's awful. It is so bad. So I end up doing it, and I did it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And crazy parent stuff kicked in.
Yep.
It was prevalent back then too. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, the drive was getting a little crazy. Lisa was pregnant with Michael.
Yeah.
And it was time to
move on.
Time to move on. So I left there, and I ended up coaching a junior team with Tommy Mack.
Okay.
Coaching junior Rangers, and I did that for a year. And then after that, I stepped back for a little bit, and then I ended up at Carver High School.
Really?
Yeah. So again, this ties back to Yukon, believe it or not.
Here we go.
So Jimmy Barrasso, Tom's brother,
Yeah.
was a classmate of mine at Yukon, and he had taken over the Carver job. They were starting a program, and he called me. He's like, I need an assistant coach. I think you'd be perfect. I'm like, well, I'm available.
I'll do it.
So I jumped on. I was his assistant for 2 years, and then he stepped down. I'm like, well, if you're stepping down, I'm not staying.
Yeah.
And they were at the point of merging with like Sacred Heart or Middleborough. They were talking about merging somewhere along the way.
You didn't want to take that head coach job?
No, it was because it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
In all honesty, and like I said, they were talking about maybe merging with somebody, so it might not have been their head coach's gig.
Right.
So, and it's funny, my assistant coach now is tied into this whole thing too, Tony.
Because he's a Carver guy.
Yeah. So I said, no, I'm out. I guess I can't do that. I said, so I was technically a free agent. I wasn't planning on doing anything. And then Jimmy Casagrande at Rockland called me. He says, hey, he goes, would you mind helping us out? And I'm like, no, not at all. I go, yeah, I'd love to.
So you're living where? In Rockland at the time?
Yeah, we moved. Yeah, we bought our house in Rockland in '98.
Okay.
So we're in Rockland.
So in 1 year, in 1 year period, you got married, got pregnant, bought a house.
No, we got married in '97, bought the house in '98. Michael was born in 2000.
2000. Okay.
So yeah, but not too far off.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. So we're living in Rockland, and it's right down the street. I'm like, and they skated some odd times too. Not the times we skated, but
yeah.
I said, yeah, I'll jump on and do it. So I jumped on and did it for a couple years as a volunteer assistant. And then I had to step down because there was a conflict of interest that was coming to Rockland that I did not and could not be around.
Okay.
It was a kid transferring back from another school that there was some family stuff. My family was connected to it, and
you didn't want to be around it.
Didn't want to be around it. And I stepped down. I'm like, I need to step away.
Yeah.
So I went 2 years, probably. I don't think I coached at all those 2 years, which was good. It was good. And then when that situation rectified itself and moved on, I jumped back on. Jimmy asked me again. He's like, you mind jumping back on? So this is 2000. It's got to be 2007-ish because I took over in Rockland 08, 09. So it was the year before I took over, whatever year that was.
So you were only back for a year before you
I'm back for a
became
year,
the head coach.
and then Jimmy put in for the normal job and got it. And then I had to put my name for the Rockland job. I was going against his brother Steve, who was his assistant.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting it over Steve.
So you were both assistants in Rockland.
Yeah, I was a volunteer. And Steve was a paid assistant.
So you both went for that Rockland job.
Yeah.
And they gave it to you.
They gave it to me.
Was Steve from Rockland?
Oh yeah, the cast community. They all played at Rockland. From Rockland.
They did.
Yep. Steve was a teacher in the school too.
But you were the all-time leading scorer at that point, correct?
No, somebody had passed me by then.
Oh,
I had passed once or twice by then. Yeah.
Oh, I tried to get that in there. See that?
Appreciate that.
I know. I'm here for you.
I know you are. I've been passed numerous times since then, including by somebody in my own house.
I know. I was there for that.
I know you were. But so I went back for the year, and then the head coach opportunity opened up, and it's always something you want to do, right? Especially back at your alma mater, place where you grew up, place where you played. To me, it was the perfect situation. And if you would ask me, I would have been there until I quit.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
Well, I will say this.
Plan.
So I came aboard in.
So it was Michael's sophomore year.
14, is that right? 14, 15, 16, or maybe
15, 16, I think.
15, 16, 17. So whenever it was, at that point, you were like, in my mind, you were synonymous with Rockland High hockey.
I was probably about 7 years in by then.
Yeah, so it was like, you were 7 years, well established as the coach, probably putting together one of the best runs they've ever had. Plus, you had your own playing legacy from your days there. So you were like Mr. Hockey in Rockland for a little while. You were, and
in your mind, yeah,
yeah. I think in a lot of people's minds you were, simply because of the legacy, and the longevity with which you had been involved in the program, whether it was playing and then coming back and coaching, and so that's the way I felt when I was coaching with you at Rockland High, getting up at 4:30 in the morning. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And
you heard that right, 4:30 in the morning.
So we used to practice at 4:50 in the morning, and those boys were on the ice at 4:45, 4:40, ready to go. Yeah.
Religiously.
It was
you're not doing yourself justice here, because do you remember how you asked me about coaching?
Was in the men's locker room, I believe.
And I thought you were joking. I thought you were out of your mind.
Well, my memory of the story was essentially, you were like, I need an assistant coach, and I was like, I'll do it.
Well, it was like back-to-back weeks. You said it the first week, and I thought you were joking because skating at 4:50 in the morning. I'm like, there's no way he's driving from Duxbury at 4 in the morning. There's no way. And obviously we were in the locker room and probably having a few beverages
of age,
and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, he's not serious. And then the next week you followed up, and I looked at you and I said, you're dead serious. And you're like, I am heart attack serious.
Yeah, I was dying to get into coaching at the high school level.
And by the way, best decision I ever made.
Oh.
And that's not me blowing smoke up his rear end. That for a couple of reasons. Number one, it made me a better coach.
Oh man.
But number two, what you did for Michael.
Yeah. Well, where it really started, we played against each other in men's league for a lot of years. Very acrimonious, shall we say. His team hated me with a passion.
And that is sugarcoating it.
Yeah, they chased me around the rink one game trying to chop my head off with their sticks. That's a true story.
That is 100. Not me. I was trying to be the peacemaker. Right.
And then we played together for a bunch of years. But I remember going, and at the time, my nephew Connor, who was on the show, was playing at Hanover High, and he was playing a lot as a freshman.
Yes, he was.
And I remember going to the Hanover. I was not on the bench for Mike's freshman year.
Correct. You came in sophomore.
I came in sophomore year, and you weren't playing him.
So So I remember it was his freshman year. We were playing at the Bog, and I think it was a makeup game on a Sunday night, and you were skating next door. I couldn't play the men's league game because obviously I had other things to do. And I just remember the next week in the locker room, you looked at me and you said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What do you mean?" You're like, "You've got to play your kid." I'm like, "He's not ready. He's not big enough." And you were like, "You're an idiot if you don't play him."
Yeah.
And
I remember seeing, I saw him twice in like a 2-week span. I saw him play Hanover at Hobmock.
Yep.
And then I saw that game.
The other one. Yep.
And I was like, you got to play this kid. You got to play this kid. And then the next year, so I was with you for 3 consecutive years, which was his sophomore, junior, and senior year. Yep. We had some great runs.
Oh, best in school history.
Yeah.
And it's honestly it's no coincidence that you were a part of that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, it's true because, like I said, you made me better because you took the pressure of me off coaching my kid.
Yeah.
And I just actually told this story like twice in the last 3 days. Like, people ask me, how was it coaching your own kid? I'm like, well, honestly, most of his career, I was his head coach, but I didn't really coach him because I had Jimmy Lockhart with me on the Breakers, and his son Chopper played for us. And we had an agreement that I would deal with Chopper, Jimmy would deal with Michael. And we just kind of left our kids alone. And then, Mike's freshman year, I didn't play him much because there was, I didn't want it to look like, hey, he's playing the coach's kid. And he was a class of 6 freshmen, and it was like, great group, but I had to let him figure out his own way. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we had 3 seniors get suspended for 5 games. Yeah. And that kind of opened the door for Michael and Joe Campanile and Matty O'Brien and those kids to get their time to play. And they kind of took it and ran with it. Yeah. And I just remember when you came on the next year, you were like, you're not going to talk to Michael. Yeah. Like, I will deal with Michael, you deal with everything else, and he'll be my priority. And you can tell me what you want to say to him. And now I would sit there and say to you, you got to do this. And you go like, hey, you know what? Shoot the puck more. Yeah. Or, hey, but you would diffuse everything and just go like a whole different route. And it worked so well. Yeah. Because, and I think that's a big reason why Michael's where he is today, because of guys like you helping him out. And then when he went to play for Kyle Robertson and Walpole. Yeah. Like, you guys really had his interest at heart, and you kept the crazy dad away from it. And Michael's a good kid, and he hard-working kid, but he wears his heart on his sleeve. He does. An emotional kid, kind of gets caught when he was younger. I haven't seen him in a little bit, but I do get text messages from him, pictures, and he sends me notes, and so it's a big influence on him. It's a nice relationship that I have with Michael. So now you're at Rockland for 10 years, right? I did 13. 13 years. So I leave after 10. Yep. I leave after 10. You have 175 wins as a coach over there. 175 total, including Duxbury, right? You leave there. No, I had 175 at Rockland. You had 175 at Rockland. At Rockland alone. Okay. So 175 wins at Rockland. It's your alma mater. It's your hometown. And you decide to leave. Yep. Why? What was the nudge? The nudge was, I needed a challenge. And I think as an athlete and as a coach, or in anything you do in life, you want something to challenge you. And when you're at one place for so long, and you've kind of done everything you can at that place, and not saying I wouldn't have been happy staying at Rockland, but just the challenge of, can I do this at the Duxbury level? Can I do it at the Division II level, the Division I level? Can I do this? And for me, it was a personal challenge. Yeah. And there was also the stigma of going to a place where it's a hockey program. There are 65 to 70 kids that come off the team every year. There's a tradition. There's a history there. And not that there wasn't at Rockland, because the tradition and history at Rockland, I was a huge part of. Yeah. And I'm very, very proud of it. As you should be. We have 4 league championships in school history at Rockland. And I was on one of the teams. My brother was on the other one, and my son's on the other 2, and I coached the last 2. So we're the only family. See, that's what I'm saying. He's like Mr. Hockey in Rockland. That's what I'm saying. You're tied to every legacy. Right. So it's an incredible legacy. We're the only family in Rockland. 100 and how many points in high school? I think it was 139. You know exactly the number. Don't give me the. I think it was 139. You could give me the breakdown of assists and goals. I actually just found the puck in the basement the other day. So yeah, it was 139. And how many did Mike score? 145. Oh, he got me. He got you. He got me. So think about that. That's almost 300 points. Quick math. 285 points. Yeah. So it's in the house. It's pretty unique, and the family legacy even gets better at Rockland because, I played there. Mike played there. Erin played a freshman year there. Yeah, that's right. Before she went to Canterbury, and so there's the 3 of us that played there, and then Michael was the first college hockey player we had come out of there since Kevin Sheehan, who was my cousin. Okay. So since Kevin graduated 2012. This is what I'm saying. And Kevin, and unfortunately Kevin, he only got in 1 college game, but he made the varsity roster of UMass Dartmouth. He didn't get much playing time. He finally got a game his freshman year. His sophomore year, he blew out his ACL for the 2nd time. Yeah. So he was done playing. Otherwise, Kev would have done really well down at UMass Dartmouth. So Michael is he's the 2nd kid in Rockland history since 2012 to play college hockey. He's the first to score an NCAA goal in I don't know how long. Since you did it. Nah, I think there's somebody after. There's a couple guys after, like Timmy Yule, Tony Fiore. Oh yeah, I know Timmy. There's a bunch of guys that did it after, but Michael's the first one in a long time. Yeah. And I know I'm proud of. I know Lisa is, and then now Erin's going to go play. So Erin is now going to be the third kid since 2012 to go play college hockey.
Right.
So it's a great.
Yeah, you like
honestly it's so
hockey
cool.
royalty in Rockland. You're hockey royalty in Rockland, and then
It's
and
pretty
then you
cool.
call me up on the phone and you're like, "Hey, the Duxbury job's available. Should I go for it?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah,
And your exact words were, "You better."
yeah, yeah. You should definitely go for it."
So,
And that wasn't without its trials and tribulations because I was going through some nonsense too. And you were like, "Well, if they're treating you like that on the girls' side, I'm not coming."
right, it was.
And I remember I was pulling out of the bog, and I was on the phone with you, and I was like, "Okay,
Take a deep breath.
let's just calm down, okay? It's a Friday. Let's just relax. We'll reconnect on Monday." And we reconnected on Monday.
Which, by the way, is classic for you and I because that's the way it usually all works.
Right.
Like when we feed off each other, like we'll text each other after a girls' game and be like, "That's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This is it." Yeah, me neither. And all of a sudden,
I quit.
2 days later, like, I love hockey. It's crazy, but it's so to go back to leaving Rockland to go to Duxbury. It was not an easy decision for me.
Yeah,
it was honestly one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make and it wasn't because of what the Flaherty family has done at Rockland or how lucky we've been there. It was the kids of Rockland.
Yeah.
It's a blue collar town. The kids are tremendous. They battle, they scratch, they claw. It was hard for me to leave, especially the administration was so good to me. Graz's and AD was outstanding to me. And I remember when I left, he's like, "I can't believe it." I go, Graz, I got to do this.
Yeah.
I have to do this. And it's like, if I go and I fail, I get it.
Right.
If I go and it succeeds, this could be a really, really good thing. And it was a hard decision. Like you said, you and I went back and forth. I mean, I put my resume in I think May.
Yeah.
And then all the turmoil that happened with all the changes and like that. And then the stuff that you went through and it's like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not doing this. And then the amount of support that I got from the town of Duxbury, the people in Duxbury, for me to get that job, I will never forget.
Yeah.
It was for those of you that don't remember or don't know, the Rockland-Duxbury rivalry was real back in the 80s. It was nasty.
Yeah.
It was nasty. It was like the Hatfield McCoys. Like
yeah,
they hate each other.
It was like the outsiders.
They hated
Socias.
each other. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was if Rockland beat Duxbury, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
Duxbury was supposed to beat Rockland, and that didn't happen as much as Duxbury wanted it to.
Yeah.
And especially on the hockey side, I think I lost to Duxbury once in 4 years. Football was always a battle. Soccer, I mean, Duxbury soccer back then was like the thing.
Yeah.
And Rockland soccer was right there with it. So there was a lot of battles going on. And I joke with the kids now, I'm like, there were days that Rockland kicked Duxbury's ass. No way. I'm like, no, I know because I lived it.
Yeah.
Right?
I was on the ice for that.
Right. And so for it to come full circle like that and to be a part of, and like I said, I know the tradition of Duxbury. I know there's a history and there's people want to win. But just the amount of support I got from people, I mean, people I didn't even know really that were in my corner and backing me. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So as you were going through that hiring process, I was going through a sort of a rehiring process, and I was like all emotional because I obviously love coaching the girls,
Absolutely.
and I thought we had some good things. Whatever. So it's all in the past. But what one friend said to me was as I was going through it was essentially, no matter what happens through this process, you were able to learn what people thought of you. A lot of people don't get to know that until it's
That is
in the box.
so true. That
right?
is so
So he's
true.
like, you pretty much had a living wake where you had all these people come out. You did. I mean, I had all these people come out, and I had some people come out on the other side.
Right.
Right. But that's life. But I had so much support from the people of Duxbury and the people that I've coached
And rightfully so.
and other coaches. And you had a very similar experience. Because you were up against some stiff competition for that job.
Absolutely.
And coming in as an outsider, and you got a lot of unwavering support from a lot of people.
It was amazing.
Which is amazing to have.
Honestly, Nudge, it was it's something I'll never forget.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people whose kids graduated 2 and 3 years ago. And then there were people whose kids aren't even in the school yet.
Yeah.
That were pushing me. And it was pretty surreal. I mean, and I go back to the whole Rockland Duxbury thing. For the people of Duxbury to support a Rockland guy,
Yeah.
it was pretty cool.
Well, winning is blind.
It really is. It really, really is.
Winning is blind.
And thank God we win.
That's right. Because if you didn't, you'd be fired.
It'd be fired tomorrow.
And then you have a great season, right? You semifinal run.
Storybook season.
Yeah.
Like nobody expected that.
Nope.
No, but I sure didn't, because I didn't know any of the kids. I didn't, these kids, I think they needed some guidance.
Yep.
They had gone through a couple tumultuous years, 2 years in a row. I was the third coach in 3 years.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to expect out of me. I didn't know. I knew some of the kids, but I didn't know a lot of them. So I was literally going in blind, which I think, honestly, couldn't have been a better situation.
Yeah.
Because I'm going in looking at kids that, some people might have their mind preconceived notions of what these kids can do. And it made me really dig down and look at these kids and see, like, what does this kid bring to the table? Like, what can he do to help us? Or I think this kid can help us. I don't know what these people talk about. This kid, actually, there's something he can do here.
Yeah.
And the backside of it was, like I said, I go back to the kids not having any guidance. I think they really, as you know, I'm heavily involved with the kids.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what's going on, and I'll talk to them, and I'll joke with them, but I'll push when I have to. But I get down to a level with them that I don't think they ever had.
Yeah.
I don't think not that coaches didn't care, but it was when they left the rink, they left the rink.
Yeah.
They went. Everything was within the glass, within the locker room, within the rink.
Yep.
There was nothing outside the rink, and I'm texting some of the kids like play other sports. Hey, great job today. Like you do. Like you do with the Twitter stuff and all that stuff. You joked. Oh, what, do you follow me? No, I'm doing my own thing. You just slow it down over there, right? But that's what we do.
But you show up for football games in Duxbury. You show up for soccer games. Right. You're at these kids' events.
And it's, and you know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the percentage of coaching that is the job is minimal. It's minimal. I think the rest of it is more counseling, role model, leadership,
relationship
building, and being involved with these kids. And I think if you work with these kids on those levels, you get more out of them athletically too.
Yeah. Well, they want to play for you.
They want to play for you.
They don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to let you down. You have a relationship with them,
and I know you have the same thing with the girl side.
Yep.
And I know your girls love playing for you.
Yeah.
And you're great with the girls, and I want that same thing with the boys. And I think we're there.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be a building process, but especially when you have a whole new class coming in. We have like 18 freshmen coming in this year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, and there's some kids that can play. So it's, my honeymoon is probably over.
Well, there's going to be a heightened, you set the bar pretty high. You go to the state semifinals in the first year.
I told the kids we set it way too high.
I know.
Way too
high. You
needed
like an early exit.
Like round 2. I get round 2.
Yeah. Hey, nice season. See you next year.
Great. Yeah, we'll see you next year. We'll build on that.
Yeah. The only way to go for you is the state finals.
The only way to go is to go to the Garden.
Yeah.
And, I've said this to some people. Like, this is my 15th year. And we've had some good teams.
Yeah.
Like, I knew, like, Michael's junior, senior, we had some good teams. I thought Michael's junior year was probably the team.
Maddie Dunn.
Right. So that was that group. But I also had a group in 2014 that I thought should have gone to the Garden. And we had some internal problems that just didn't. I had some kids that didn't play to the level they should have, and they let some outside stuff creep in on them.
Yep, happens.
And it happens. And I thought that team was probably one of the best teams I ever had. And, Michael's year, I thought we had a team. If it wasn't for, old Rochester, who came out of nowhere, really, we probably go to the Garden.
Yep.
And his senior year, I didn't think we were good enough to go to the Garden. I thought depth-wise we were a little down. And, I was right. We shouldn't have beat Hopkinton.
Yeah.
I don't think we should have beat Hopkinton. The infamous timeout game.
Yeah.
I don't think we should have beat them.
Yeah.
And honestly, but I probably underestimated our guys a little bit too, because I thought Hopkinton was deeper and better, and they probably were. I just don't think they had the heart that we did. And so that team, it was kind of a surprise to get to the South Finals. I thought we could get there with some luck, and we did. But this year, I've never had a team that I could sit there and say we could probably win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Or we're good enough to.
Yeah.
And we're good enough to get to the Garden. And I think with these kids,
a lot of things have to go right.
Absolutely.
Stay injury free, all that stuff.
But I think the biggest thing in the kids' minds is they know that they have a chance to get there.
Yeah.
And I think if your players know they have a chance to get there and you keep them within themselves, things should happen.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to worry about injuries. You got to worry about grades. You got to worry about,
girlfriends,
you name it,
boyfriends.
the whole bit. Right, the whole bit. So, you need everything to go right.
Yeah.
And last year we didn't have everything go right. We had 6 kids that broke collarbones last year.
Yeah. And
then we had a couple other kids that popped shoulders up. But if that was rocking, we got to cancel the season. Like, we're done. We don't have kids to play.
Right.
But and going back to the challenge of going to Duxbury is like, okay, what kid is going to take that challenge next? Do I have another kid that can step in? We had a kid like Brayden Hewlett who was our 13th forward for a long time. He's playing first line in the state semifinals.
Yeah.
As a sophomore. So it's
So
like
his future's bright.
very bright. And, we're looking up and down the lineup like, who can we put in there? And he was the guy, and he responded tremendously. Like, tremendous. Nobody knew Sam Masnick. Like, everybody like, who's Sam Masnick?
Yeah.
Well, the kid turned to be one of the best goalies in the state.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like crazy.
That's what you need.
And you knew that. And you know that being the father of a goaltender.
Yeah.
And
I know it
everything
all
else.
too
But
well.
It's the expectations are high, but I think they're reachable as long as the coaching staff doesn't screw it up.
But you got to be excited about it.
Beyond excited.
Well, that's good.
Beyond excited.
But I was very excited when you said you'd come on the show. I really appreciate all your stories. I learned a lot about Mike Flaherty today that I did not know. Good luck with the upcoming season.
Same to you, my friend.
I will see you tomorrow at some point, probably, or maybe later tonight.
Most likely, yes.
So that's all we got. And as always, if anybody needs anything, you can give me a call because everybody needs a nudge. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dan.